Beyond the Veil. I am Oily Face Adina. Even though I have on a matte setting spray, I am Oily Face Adina, and you guys are Beyond the Veil. I will be your resident medium, oracle, wise woman, psychic, whatever you guys call them. Just not the kind that Kim Kardashian was seeing, and other things. If you are not into what I do here, as I just stated what I do here, and you are hostile to people like me, I invite you to exit peacefully. And for those of you who are here for the first time and are curious about what I do or are open minded to my line of work, I invite you to stay. And I hope that you find a community here. For all of my regular viewers, resident subscribers, and busted babies, welcome. Happy Sunday. Happy day of the sun to all of you. I'm sorry, I'm just getting some of this oil off of my face so I don't look so illuminated in front of you guys. All right. Oh, look. All right. So looks like somebody just Safi. I see Safi just sent a coin for the group ceremony coming up this Wednesday. For my regular viewers and subscribers, just a reminder that our annual end of the year blockbuster slash road opening ceremony is this Wednesday, November the 19th. The last day to sign up to participate is I got you, sissy. It's Tuesday, November 18th. And that's that. So, you guys, the group ceremony is out. It's happening Wednesday. Contact me at beyondtheveiladina@gmail.com if you like to participate and you don't have my personal contact information like most of my subscribers do. All right, well, I see that Sissy's the only one in the chat this Sunday, and I actually just rushed home to get on this live. I was supposed to be out at like a family softball game, but shout out to Sissy who said she's never missing a ceremony again after we successfully got her student aid debt wiped out. Um, yeah, I was supposed to be at a family softball game, but I pulled up, nobody was there, and I said I could actually be on live instead of being out here fooling around with these people who don't respect time because they said 3:30. I was there at 3:20. None of the ninjas, the black people were there, meaning my family. So at 3:45, I pulled out, went to Kava, got some food, and came home and decided to do it live because I ain't got time for that. My schedule is too packed. Anyways, Tierra, how's the south of France? And my open house was okay for an open house. I only had one guest show up, but that's to be expected at an open house. Um, so the next one I'm doing, I propose to do an open house slash toy drive, um, and make it free. So bring a bounce house. I thought about getting a snow cone vendor and then getting a bunch of toys donated and then having people come and tour the house under the guise of come get some free toys and entertainment because they have 3 acres. Their property faces the road, it faces the sun setting. And so it's almost like the best advertisement is the house itself. The best way to market the house is to utilize the house itself. So I just locked them in or got their approval to do a toy drive on their open house. So that's my new marketing scheme. We'll see how that works. Okay, well, Tierra, safe travels coming back home from the south of France. All right, so you love kava, Sissy. I just found out about it, and this is my second time going this week. I'm turned out. I am a kava girl. I am turned out. Okay. They got me. They got me good. They got me honest. All right. So I had already, thank you, Sissy. I had already had it on my mind to do a reading on what's going on in Sudan. And then I got a request last night or this morning last night asking me. I had been gave up on Chipotle, um, but I hadn't even looked for an alternative. And my cousin was like, listen, I got a place. Because since I'm a healthy girl, I crave healthier foods. And especially leaving the gym, my appetite is crazy. And even though I leave the gym very early in the morning because I'm there in the morning, by 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, I'm starving. And my body usually is craving something. And I just listen to what my body wants. And it's usually craving live, fresh food. So I eat a lot of fresh food or I do a lot of my own cooking. But she was like, it's like Chipotle, but not quite. And I was like, yeah, well, I'm not turned on by Chipotle style restaurants. But she was like, no, it's healthy food. It's this, and this. So I went, I looked at that bar. I said, oh, this is the stuff I like. I tried it. And that drink bar, man, listen. I just take my cup like a kid and then just go to all those drinks. The pineapple apple mint tea, the blueberry lavender, the cucumber mint, the original lemonade. I get all of them. And they do free refills, so I utilize it. All right. I see Sissy saying prayers for Sudan. So someone did reach out to me and ask me to look into the conflict, the civil war in Sudan. And so I thought to do just that amongst some other current events. If I have time, I'll look into them. So just to get you guys caught up, I am going to hi Beat Splash. I'm going to give you guys a little rundown on what exactly is going on in Sudan. And I'm just going to go to Google as a source and find someone on here so I can just okay. So according to the AI overview on Google, because it's important that I cite my sources, the current Sudan conflict is a power struggle that began in April 2023 between the Sudanese army and the Rapid Support Forces, RSF, a paramilitary group. This latest war follows a history of coups and instability after the 2019 ousting of Omar al Bashir. The conflict, oh, and escalated from tensions over the integration of the RSF into the regular military. The conflict has resulted in a severe humanitarian crisis with over 150,000 deaths, mass displacement, and widespread atrocities, including famine and claims of genocide in the Darfur region. There is a name I haven't heard in a long time, Darfur. Shout out to anyone in Sudan and please chime in with any information because I'll admit I heard about a crisis in Sudan, but I have not sat down to educate myself. So I'm going to do this really quickly before I read on it. So this will be a BBC article from 3 days ago, and it says Sudan War, a simple guide to what is happening. Again, this is BBC.com. It's an article from 3 days ago. Sudan plunged into a civil war in April 2023 after a vicious struggle for power broke out between its army and powerful paramilitary group, the RSF. It has led to famine and claims of genocide in the western Darfur region, with fears for the residents of city of El Fasher after it was recently captured by the RSF, which is a paramilitary group. More than 150,000 people have died in the conflict across the country, and about 12 million have fled their homes in what the United Nations has called the world's largest humanitarian crisis. Here's what you need to know. According to them, this is what you need to know. It is the latest episode in bouts of tension that followed the 2019 ousting of long serving President Omar al Bashir, who came to power in a coup in 1989. There were huge street protests calling for an end to his near 3 decade rule, and the army mounted a coup to get rid of him. But civilians continued to campaign for the introduction of democracy. That sounds very Western. That sounds like something the UN or a foreign Western entity introduced into the conversation. Anytime you have a people starting to talk about democracy for the first time in their history, look for a Western nation to be somewhere near, rather publicly or behind the scenes. Do the people really cry for a democracy? Or is that programming? Do the people wake up one day and see an article that says the people are crying out for a democracy and the people are like, who is the people? So, a joint military civilian government was then established, but that was overthrown in another coup in 2021. The coup was, seems like every 2 years they have a coup. Somebody got thrown out in 2019. So there was a coup in 2021. And then there was another coup in 2023. And then here in 2025, we're talking about another civil war instance. So, what is this 2 year cycle of coups and uprisings and wars, civil wars, is there going on in Sudan? I always notice trends and repetitions and things. And based on the dates that they've given us 2019, 2021, 2023, and 2025. All of those are 2 years apart. So that's interesting. All right, the coup was staged by the two men at the center of the conflict. Here we go. General Abdel Fattah al Burhan, the head of the armed forces and, in effect, the country's president, and his deputy, RSF leader General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, better known as Hemedti. But then General Burhan and General Dagalo disagreed on the direction the country was going in and the proposed move towards the civilian rule. I hate the term civilian rule because it's always used, and civilians never take into account that powerful people are fighting over civilian rule. Who gets to rule over civilians, over normal, everyday, regular people? When I've never been let somebody rule over you kind of woman. So when I hear terms like that introduce subjugation or what seems to be like a monarchy, then I always notice it and think, oh, you guys are fighting over who gets to rule. Did you know? It said these two men disagreed on the direction the country was going on and the proposed move towards civilian rule. So, somewhere in there, there was a proposed move towards a more of a dictatorship, so to speak, a rulership of the civilian people. And then the other party probably didn't think that they should do that, or at least under certain terms. The main sticking points were plans to incorporate it, the 100,000 strong RSF into the army, and who would then lead the new force. The suspicions were that both generals wanted to hang on to their positions of power, sounds more likely, unwilling to lose wealth and influence, and in turn plunge their whole country or their whole nation into their whole country into a war unto the death and then over their own power and their own rulership. Shooting between the two sides began on the 15th of April 2023, following days of tension as members of the RSF were redeployed around the country in a move that the Army saw as a threat. It is disputed who fired the first shot, but the fighting swiftly escalated. They say this is a civil war, but is this a civil war or a war between two generals? Because that's what it sounds more like to me. The civilians are just there, but the civilians don't have a say so in this. This is the general and the leader of Sudan's army, which in turn would be their president, and then one of his ex generals who struck out on his own and has, a paramilitary, and they want to be in power too. So I don't want to say Sudan is in a civil war. I want to say two generals are utilizing Sudan to fight each other, or utilizing Sudan as the battleground, or fighting each other over power and control over Sudan. And so now that things are in perspective to me, now I shall read. All right. Most High Mother and Father God, before I begin, no, I'll go ahead and I'll begin. Spirit, there is an alleged civil war in Sudan. I would like to conjure up the spirit, soul, and collective energy of the Sudanese people, especially the Sudanese army and the RSF and any entities involved. Allow me to conjure up the spirit, soul, and collective energy of the rulers and the ruling elite of Sudan, as well as the collective energy of the Sudanese people. Sudan, offer up your spirit to me and allow me to see it. Sudan, offer up your voice and allow me to hear what you have to say. May the soul of Sudan be called forward and speak for itself. What is currently going on with the conflict of Sudan? What is the conflict in Sudan? What is at the root of it in truth? Not just what's being reported, but what is at the root of it in truth? What's going on behind the scenes and beyond the veil with the civil war, alleged civil war in Sudan? Where is this headed? What is the outcome for Sudan as it relates to the current alleged civil war? Hey, Devon. Hi, Isco. All right. Shout out to the Sudanese people. They say this is a civil war, but is it the Sudanese people, the civilians, who are fighting or who were even outraged? Or was it two leaders of two armies? Let's see. Sudan, allow your voice to be heard. What is the cause of the recent bloodshed and conflict taking place on your soil? Sudan says greed is at the heart of every war. She says there is no war fought in righteousness and justice because those wars never get to the point of wars. Any wars that you see, when you see nations fighting, there is greed at the root of it. Normal everyday people are concerned about their normal everyday life being safe and stable. So civilians without their own defense do not ask for wars. They ask for assistance in their everyday life. They ask for livable wages. They ask for clean water. They ask for good food, affordable housing. They don't ask for war and then go home and prepare their children and their elderly. We're going to go to war because we're angry and we have no resources, but we're going to demand it. So, two armies are fighting each other, two military groups are fighting each other. The people, the residents, the civilians are usually never at the root of a war, a national war. That is what I hear the spirit of Sudan saying. All wars, this war specifically, is a war of greed. All right. Look at that emperor in reverse. A general, an emperor falling off of his throne, death peeking up. A coup indeed. An assassination happened somewhere in one of those coups, those 2-year coup spans. All right. My. All right, here is the fighting and the war. It seems as though somebody, and I want to say that this would be the general of the Sudanese army, as he has a right to be upright and parading around as a soldier. The other general, who is the leader of the RSF, that's a paramilitary group. So they are not the official military or army of Sudan. So, in reverse, I will say that the current army leader of Sudan was betrayed. If there was an alliance between him and the general of the RSF, and again, they only split directions um, at how power was going to be carried out, then I would like to say that the Sudanese army general was betrayed by the general of the RSF, in that he owed his allegiance to the Sudanese army general. As the official general of the official army of Sudan, any other military group should be in alliance. Now, it says that that's what the RSF wanted, but it didn't say they wanted an alliance. They wanted to have a seat of power within the military. My thing is, when it comes to nations, their desire was a seat at the table, not a revolution, but a seat at the table. So the fighting, it seems to be, is because of an ousted general. Now we can say what was his name? Who's the first one? So the RSF, I guess, was a part of the joint military civilian government that was established when during the 2019 coup. But it says that it was overthrown in another coup in 2021. General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, this would be him. So you have a civilian military, and then you have the Sudanese army. And at some point, when there was a coup and instability in Sudan, as the leader was ousted, they joined together. The RSF was supposed to represent the civilians and their interests in a joint effort with the national military. However, after there was another coup, this joint force was thrown out, and I suppose the Sudanese military decided we're back in power. And then the RSF leaders thought, well, you can't throw us out of the table. We've been representing the interests of the Sudanese people, and so we will not be thrown out without a fight. I'm curious about whether how the Sudanese people feel about the RSF. And do the Sudanese civilians really desire a military representative, or would they like something else, maybe a humanitarian ambassador, so to speak? I don't know. What do the people want? Challenge is power and greed. There's an emperor who doesn't want to concede, and I don't know what the demands are. But there is an emperor who does not want to concede anything. And I believe this would be General Abdel Fattah. He does not want to concede anything to the RSF anymore. It seems that these coups could have been a product of Mr. Abdel Fattah, because at the original coup, in 2019, that's when this joint military force was created. And so it was only then that the Sudanese military wanted to join force with a civilian military. That seemed to have benefit Abdel. If his president, as he was just the general of the army, he wanted him to get him out, allegedly. Somebody wanted him out because he had been in power for so long. Military leaders, to me, are the number one suspects when it comes to coups. And so, yes, let's join with the civilian military in order to help oust the next leader. So they got out that leader in 2019 as a joint force. But now that that leader is out, it seems like Abdel is now president or on his way to another level of power and might not need the RSF anymore, because General Abdel currently is considered the president as well as the military leader due to so many coups of the previous presidents. And he's been a military leader throughout all of them. So it's my opinion that this is General Abdel, and I believe it is my opinion that he is one of the main ones at the root of all the ousting of the previous leaders until he became the default president. I think these are the coups, but I think there's someone military. And if not military, someone military with the aid of foreign people, spies, espionage, or somebody that's represented by a foreign entities that came in and assisted with the coup. Armed, helped arm them so that they can continue to overthrow the current leaders. And now Abdel is in there. It seems like someone is trying to, or the RSF is trying to do what he did to someone else. And maybe the RSF was aware of the fact that they were helping the Sudan military oust leaders, and maybe the agreement was that there would be some kind of power given to the RSF. And then after the coups and the overthrows were successful, that joint military endeavor was overthrown. Now the RSF is mad because it's like, we helped you oust these leaders so that you can become the leader, and now you want to throw us away. So these are the coups, but this is also the call was coming from inside the house, and I think from the military, Sudan's own military. That's my opinion, though. Again, these are two generals that are fighting for Sudan, not the Sudan people. So let's just get this straight. When the media talks about civil war in Sudan, especially when the Western media talks about a civil war in Sudan, it makes us compassionate and empathetic, especially if a Western nation comes in and decides to help, say, the Sudanese military combat the RSF. That lines up even more with a foreign entity coming in and helping the military leader oust the previous presidents. I'm going to read Abdel Fattah a little bit, but I don't really need to. This is him. In the near future, these two generals are going to continue to fight at the expense of Sudan, and they're willing to tear it up because this is how power is won. There has to be a sacrifice, a blood one. The call was coming from in the house. This would be the previous presidents. This would be the Sudanese military leader, and this would be the RSF leader. So these two military leaders were in on cornering the president until they continue to oust them. Again, these coups are staged allegedly. I believe these coups were facilitated on behalf of both sides of the military, but I believe that the Sudanese general partnered with the RSF to help overthrow other presidents in with the agreement to divvy up the power. If the if the general becomes president by default, then you don't need to really be the general anymore because you're the president. Make RSF official military and make the RSF the official military leader, since I helped you overthrow two previous presidents, or one, however many. Yeah. Now, one party could, one party has the power to stop this if they delegate it. But there is one general who wants ultimate and total control. Not compromise, but ultimate and total control. I believe that is General Abdel. Ace of Swords in reverse. I think there was an agreement that was not kept. I believe that's why the RSF is fighting. Now, the fear for one of these men is somebody knows they're going to lose, but they will fight to the death. This makes me think of the RSF as the Nine of Wands in reverse. If this Ten of Wands upright is General Abdel, because he is the formal and official president and Sudanese military general. So any nations that come in to assist Sudan will be coming in to assist their official military against any other military groups that came up, as they didn't seem to do during the first or second coup. except I believe for when they came in to assist the coups. But now there's talks about the UN of stepping in to assist Sudan and probably by way General Abdel. Well, they would have an interest because he might just be one of their boys, one that they helped to take over the presidency. The RSF, I do not believe that you will ever be an official military. There's almost no way that can happen at this point. However, I don't see them relenting. Outcome. The outcome is the Nine of Swords in reverse. So some foreign nations will get involved, but the general consensus will be I don't believe that there will be some sort of convergence upon Sudan from the international community. I see conflict. I see nations talking about getting involved, the UN seeing what they can do. I see legalities. But what I don't see is peace. And that's because that's not what's on the table. This is a conflict between two generals and two militaries fighting about the direction of leadership in the country. And so this is a matter for politicians and leaders, not the people. However, the people are the ones who will suffer. There could be various compromises or talks of agreements, some of which might pan out, some of which won't be upheld, as do many wars that persist for a long time. There are many attempts to make resolutions, and they're usually not kept. There is a desire for Sudan to be a democracy, but again, I believe that that is a foreign idea implanted into the minds of the general. Help us set up a democracy in Sudan, and we will allow you to rule it. All right, near future. General Hemedti will continue trying to introduce something new to the table. So I don't know what. No, no, no. That General Hemedti will continue because I think maybe the RSF doesn't want a democracy like a westernized version of Sudan. There's a general, though, that's determined to carry out some sort of new something. What is this newness? Is that the democracy? The UN here, this is something that the UN, I believe, or a conglomerate of nations would like to see happen in Sudan. Democracy, so they say. There is a general tasked with carrying this out, and I believe that is General Abdel Fattah. And then there is Hemeti, who is leading a resistance to democracy in Sudan. The current president is a politician now, no longer a general. He's a politician. He went from a dependable and loyal soldier, which is actually what he was tasked to do. So I believe a long time ago, even probably at the 2019 coup, if he was there, then I believe that he was at the root of that. And the goal was for him to become president and start doing politics. In his cup is illusions, truths, lies, fallacies, charming words, heartbreak, like a politician. Oh, yes. I strongly believe after. See, the challenge is somebody reneged and hoarded all the power for themselves. And this lets me know that once somebody became the emperor, another soldier was abandoned, exile, treated like I don't even know you. Now, this would be the RSF. I believe they helped that joint military force under the guise of. Now, I'm not sure whether the RSF was expecting some sort of joint power. Let me look into that night. This is a partnership and alliance gone wrong. Somebody disagrees with the building of this new democracy, this new world in Sudan. One of those generals doesn't agree with it, and their fighting isn't just because they want a seat at the table, but they want to say so. A seat at the table means they're aware of what the current president is doing. And if it's not for the highest interest of Sudan, then they can be there to interject. I believe the RSF, and I'm not sure if they are being brokered or powered up by another entity, but it is my belief after doing this reading that General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, who is the head of the armed forces and in effect the country's president, was at the root of the previous coups, the 2019 and the 2020, 2021. And then once that power was secured, overthrew the joint military effort in 2023 with the RSF, and then ascended to being the default president. And now the RSF, and also wants to introduce democracy. I believe that that is what the disagreement in the country's direction is when it mentions that these two generals had a disagreement about the direction of the country because there are talks about introducing democracy in Sudan. So, Spirit, what does this mean for the Sudanese civilian? The Sudanese civilians, as there are multiple deaths. I'm not sure if this is truth or just what's being reported by the media, but considering I had someone reach out and ask about it. Anyway, Spirit, what does this conflict in Sudan between these two military generals, what effect will this have on the people? What does this mean for the people of Sudan? And what message does the divine have for the civilians of Sudan? The Sudanese people, it seems, are being represented by the RSF. And there was a joint military force that came together because they agreed that they had a common enemy and a common goal. The challenge is that that alliance wasn't a lie. The alliance was all a lie, a little bit. And I don't think that the civilians are aware of the behind the veil. Past position, you guys were on a fast track to being westernized, colonized. When they start talking about democracy in nations where there wasn't one, that is a Western term. So the New World Order was upon you. And someone used these two generals to help institute it, probably by saying, hey, oust the presidents. But there was supposed to be something in it for both of those leaders. Because of an agreement, see this Two of Cups here? That's this Two of Cups. Because of an agreement they had behind the scenes, many people are suffering. And that agreement also had another party involved, but it seems like one of these parties wasn't aware of the involvement of the other party. This tells me that there was, I believe, a foreign interest behind General Abdel Fattah that was kept out of the know from his alliance with Hemedti. Even if Hemedti felt like there are foreign parties that are going to help us overthrow these governors or presidents, I don't think he knew that the plan was for Abdel Fattah to become president and then get rid of them. So there was something in it for everybody, but one party wasn't aware that there was another party. And the people, civilians, will suffer. And that's kind of the goal. When colonizing a nation and establishing what the white people call democracy, there has to be casualties because that will bring the people to the point of desperation to accept any help. You bring a people to the brink of, to the fullness of desperation so that anything that's presented to them looks like a savior. If you're stranded in the jungle for 40 days and 40 nights, you might eat some shit, drink some shit, or do some shit to survive that had you not been in those circumstances, you would never do because you don't have to. You have other luxuries. But for survival, you'll do anything once you feel the hunger pains turning into slowly dying, wasting away. So you starve a people. You introduce them to war. And you do so for at least a generation. So that the next one will look for liberation out of the circumstances that they believe oppress them, even though that oppression was induced. People suffer. Again, I believe Hemedti, I believe, and that's the leader of the RSF, I believe that he thought he would have a position up under Abdel Fattah, a seat at the table, and that's literally what they say. So this isn't conjecture. He wanted a seat at the table. He wanted the RSF to be a part of the official Sudanese military after helping oust other leaders. But even the RSF, or the person who came to RSF in need, and I believe that was the general, I don't believe the RSF came to the general and said, hey, Let us help you. No, I believe the Sudanese um, military leader approached the RSF, maybe, or agreed to them, knowing that they were there, but not to be trusted, though, because this person already knew that it was on the fast track to a political office. And so utilizing the RSF was a means to an end. He intended to snatch it off for himself even after creating an alliance with the RSF. So the RSF is the one that was bamboozled in this situation with the general of the armed forces, in my opinion. And speaking about the civilians, this is what the regular civilians are experiencing while these two generals fight each other. These are people fleeing Sudan, looking for refuge somewhere else, somewhere safer. And that might be better than staying around waiting for a resolution. You can love Sudan and want to stay because you love it. But if you're staying because you think that salvation will come, not the kind of salvation you're looking for. Mm-mm. And I must say, no, I won't say that. That's conjecture. Ace of Wands. That's in the hopes and fears. Somebody else is playing in the background, even between the two of them. Somebody else, I believe that there was a foreign party on both sides of these generals. I won't even say that the RSF was, the victim in this. This war was started for power. People that know power, especially military power, they understand what it takes to get it. Again, I believe that these coups and the joint military, this was all for power. So I think another third party might have come in and made these parties feel like they had a common goal in order to oust the other presidents. I believe General Abdel Fattah was made promises. I believe the RSF leader was made promises, and I believe both of them have some foreign outside brokers involved in the Civil War. However, I think that the intention was war because that's how power is shifted from emperor's war. Whoever wins the battle gets to be king. One side has the international community behind them because they want to bring in um, democracy. One side might have been, the other side might be okay with that too, if they have a seat at the table. At the end of the day, I don't know if any side was truly fighting for the benefit of the Sudanese people. And the outcome, you guys will have a general The problem is, though, he'll be a political general. So the Sudanese people, the outcome of this conflict has been what you guys got, a political general. That will be Abdel Fattah. And I don't think that General Dagalo will be successful at overthrowing him because this general is also a politician now. I'm curious to know, who is the UN supporting? Give me a second to see what the UN is saying, because that will give me some insight on that outcome. UN News. Let's see. Well, it says UN experts demand urgent action to protect civilians in Sudan. Give me a second. World must not turn its back on Sudan's deepening crisis. Called on the international community to urgently scale up funding and diplomatic action to ease the suffering of millions. Who would that funding be going to? It doesn't really give me any idea of whose side the United Nations is on. They're literally saying that these two men are battling it out for power and control in Sudan. My question is, if they're doing all of these funding and humanitarian efforts, will they go through the president of Sudan, who is actively involved in this war, to aid the civilians? Will they utilize, who do they go to if one of the people fighting is the president? Who do they go to coordinate humanitarian efforts? So, with that being said, one of you guys' generals will probably have pressure, a lot of pressure. And this is Abdel Fattah. He has a lot of pressure from the international community as the technicality president of Sudan. He has a lot of pressure coming from the international community, and at some point, he will have to politic. Although he will still remain a general of the armed forces, he will show up as a knight because instead of being a president, he will be a knight, a soldier. So, as far as I'm concerned, this means that As far as I can see, the fighting will continue. It seems like a package is being delivered, but I didn't order nothing. The fighting will continue. The president that you got, who is a politician, he showed up as a king before. As far as the civilians are concerned, he he shows up at as a knight because their leader is also an active knight, an active soldier, and he will continue to do it while also having to play politics with the international community. The control he desires, he won't have. He can sit in his seat, but he's only still a general, and the international community is not looking at him as a big boss hog. They're looking at him on the same level as they're looking at the other general. These are just two generals trying to fight each other for control, and eventually we'll do something about it. That's what the UN is saying. And they're also saying if this spreads into other nations, we're going to step in too. And so General Abdel, as far as the civilians are concerned, I believe the UN does not respect you like the emperor that you have acquired yourself to be. And that's why you will continue to fight, because if the international community did, they come in and assassinate the general Hemeti. They'd assassinate him. And they literally said, since they didn't say we will come in and support the Sudan armed forces, then they're saying if we have to come in, we're going to get some straightening between both of y'all. So that's what I have in Sudan. The current general and president, he will have to deal with the international community pressing him, but he'll continue to be more of a fighter than a president because he's in an active battle right now. So he can't politic because he's fighting for his life and his seat that the international community doesn't see it for him as. That would change my mind. I wouldn't say that if he showed up as the king, which is how he showed up when I read what the conflict was. So in his mind, I'm king now. As far as the international community is concerned, y'all and all this fighting is starting to disturb other people and get on our nerves. But before it ends, let us make a coin. Let us get some of that humanitarian coin. All right, that's what I got for the Sudan situation. Shout out to the civilians, and my thoughts are with them. Are there any current events worth noting, or can I go? I thought about doing a members live after that, but I don't see a lot of my members in here. Oh, you guys are here, Liv. Are you guys here enough to follow me over to a members live? Because if you are, I'll go. Actually, yes, because I didn't get a chance to do Genesis 6. I got sidetracked going through those photo albums. So I'll end this here and go on to my members live. And tomorrow, I'll come back and do another 2 lives. So we'll be back here tomorrow. Um, Again, Tuesday is the last day to participate in the group blockbuster / road opening ceremony. Beyond the Veil Adina at gmail.com if you like to participate. And members, I am going to breeze through Genesis 6 because I'm tired and starving. So follow me over to Members Live. Um, Shout out to the Sudanese people. My heart is with you if you're in Sudan and you are looking for some sort of solutions, if you are being affected by beef between two generals, schedule a consultation, um, and we can try to find a solution for you. Don't know if I can help because of the language barrier, but I'm here if you need me. All right, everybody else, I'll see you in Members Live. And if you're not a member, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Same place, not same time, but same place. Love you and good night.